So I'm going to ask you to imagine a scenario where there is no money. And not only where there is no money, but where there's no trade. And let's suppose that there are, 10,000 people in the local area. This is years ago, before the advent of money. And each of them has a square mile, so there's enough stuff to create life. They can all be farmers and eat, but they're all self-sufficient. That means they have to make their own food, their own clothing, their own shelter, their own entertainment, their own repair services, their own shoes, their own health care, their own makeup. I guess they can get feathers or something. Everything they do is just by themselves. They're all on their own. It's in effect, they have a tariff wall, an infinite tariff wall around each of them so that none of them can trade. This is sort of the economic nationalists' great idea of self-sufficiency. You know, we have to be self-sufficient in oil. We can't buy oil from someone. We can't buy shoes from someone. So here you have the anti-globalists, the people who riot in Seattle whenever they're trying to have more trade. You have their ideal. Well, is this good? Not really. Not very good. Because you can't trade with everyone. You have to be a jack of all trades. You have to make everything for yourself. And as you know, we can't have specialization. And it's very hard to be rich, let alone to live, if you have to make everything literally for yourself. You'd be like a Robinson Crusoe on your island, only there are other people around you, but you can't trade with them. Life would be nasty, brutish, and short. This Earth that can now support 6 billion people under such a regime might be able to support 6,000 people. The 6,000 people who are the most into, survival in the woods or whatever it is that it takes to live on your own. Namely, roughly 6 billion of us owe our very lives to the fact that we can trade with each other, that we can specialize, that we can learn more about the task that we're assigned to, that we can have a division of labor, we can perfect our skills. That's why we're rich. Or relatively rich compared to the situation that would ensue could we not trade. Look, if you want to be a good concert pianist, you have to practice 6, 8, 10 hours a day. How good a concert pianist can you be if you have to make all your food and your clothing and your shelter and everything else? It's just an abomination. It would be an economic abomination. So the only way out of this is to specialize. But the problem with specializing is if you can't trade, if you specialize in, shoes or Frisbees, you can't eat shoes or Frisbees, so you can't specialize. So if you want to specialize, you have to trade. So we are now going to relax our assumption of no trade. We're going to reduce the tariff barriers down to 0. And we're now going to allow trade into our model. So what happens? Well, different people specialize in different things, and they have to trade. The problem with that is a thing called the double coincidence of wants. Suppose I'm a chicken-owning pickle wanter. I have to find a pickle-owning chicken wanter. Say that 3 times fast and you'll drive yourself crazy. Or you move into town, you are a computer expert, and you have to find a landlord who wants computers. I mean, it's hard enough to find an apartment in a new city, but to find a landlord who needs your kind of computer services is the double coincidence of wants. So what it was found in history, sort of made-up history or historical exegesis, is that instead of making the double coincidence of wants direct, that would be called direct trade, there was such a thing called indirect trade. Well, what's indirect trade? Indirect trade means I trade my chicken in for something, salt, sugar, whatever, fish hooks, something that I think everyone else will want. And then when I get the salt, I take the salt and I go out and buy a pickle. So I have to do 2 trades instead of 1, but each of these 2 trades is easy to do on the assumption that everyone will accept salt or sugar or whatever it is that I'm using to intermediate trade. And then I can trade, and if I can trade, then I can specialize, and if I can specialize, then we can have life for humanity. These people, clergymen, lefties, hippies, whatever, who think that money is the root of all evil, all it is a facilitator of trade. And all trade is something that enables specialization and efficiency. And all that does is promote human life. So this is evil? Well, if this is evil, then human life is evil. Don't tell this to our friends, the environmentalists, because they believe that, but we won't go into that. Okay, notice various things have been used to intermediate trade. Salt, sugar, cigarettes, tobacco, fish hooks, cows, metals, brass, copper, silver, gold. But notice one thing that all of these trade intermediators have in common is that they're commodities. They're something you can grab or bite or chew or hold or something like that. You can't have a piece of paper be money. Look, suppose I write over on this piece of paper, I write 10 blockheads. And I go around the room and say, hey, Erin, will you give me your car and I'll give you 10 blockheads? You know, she's going to look at me as if I'm a little weird. They don't call me Walter Weird Block for nothing, and that's part and parcel of it. The point is that if somebody just printed up a piece of paper, no one would accept it except, you know, in some sort of weird way. Murray Rothbard used to do this, and he would say, well, suppose I printed up 10 Rothbards and try to trade, and I would raise my hand and I said, I'll accept it, I'll give you my bicycle for one, and he would say, shut up, Block, you know, I'm trying to make a point here. But the point is, you see, 10 Rothbards, if I really had 10 Rothbards, I could probably sell it for a lot of money, but it wouldn't really be money. It would be more like art or something like that. It would be a unique kind of a thing. But forget about that sort of a thing. In any real case, if someone says, here's 10 Rothbards, give me your house, well, 10 blocks. 10 Rothbards, I don't know what you can do with if it was a real 10 Rothbard, but you get the point. The reason that these commodities had serviceability as money is because they were valuable in their capacity as a commodity. So you have to start with a commodity. Okay, so then there was a debate, a competition to see what would be the money. A competitive struggle over which commodity. Would it be bananas? Would it be cement? Would it be diamonds? Would it be gold? You had a sort of a competition between these various commodities to see which of them would be the trade facilitator, or money, which is a synonym. Well, the way economists look at this, the criteria for success are durability, which means bananas aren't going to really cut it as money because they rot too soon. Divisibility. Diamonds would make a lousy money because when you try to make change in diamond and break a diamond in two, the two smaller diamonds, I think, are worth 1/8 of what the bigger diamond would be worth if you could cut them cleanly. So that couldn't make money. Recognizability. If you can't recognize the thing, you know, say the gold from the copper, then it wouldn't work out too well. Portability. Cement wouldn't make a good money because it's too heavy to carry around. Scarcity. You couldn't have one of those trace elements of chemistry. You know, there's that chemical thing where they have 150 different elements. The rare ones wouldn't make good money because there's not enough of it around. It has to be in circulation. It has to be divisible, and gold is a soft money. You can cut it more easily than you can cut other monies. What is it that mercury wouldn't be a good money because it's too sloppy, it, you know, pours out all over the place. So there are various technical reasons why certain commodities were money and other commodities just didn't make it as money. Well, that's why I say that gold is the free enterprise money, because whenever people were free to choose, they chose money. They chose gold, sometimes silver, sometimes copper for smaller change. So it's not as if the critics of gold, the way the critics of gold see gold advocates is it was sort of like Scrooge McDuck. Remember good old Scrooge? He'd get into his money bin and he'd sort of throw it up on himself and he would sort of roll down and go, you know, sort of a pervert or something. Or I might be a pervert, but gold isn't one of my perversions, you know, so, and nor is it for most gold standard advocates. It's just because that was the best money, the best intermediator of trade. If tomorrow we had a free market in money and people were free to choose, which is the name of Milton Friedman's film series and I think a book, and I'll be criticizing Milton Friedman on this in my afternoon session. If people were free to choose and they chose, instead of gold this time, they chose silver, that would be fine. Or if they chose platinum or whatever it is that they chose. So the key is not on gold. The key is on whatever people are free to choose. The idea, again, is back to this morality point, whatever is voluntary. And if they choose gold on a voluntary basis, then we're gold standard advocates. And if they choose silver, then silver. So it's just sort of like the gold standard is a synonym for free enterprise money in this case. Ron Paul is always in favor of the gold standard, but I'm sure he would agree with me that if people were free to choose and they chose something else, that would be fine.